Well, welcome everybody to our Monday night education. We are tonight going to be talking about the Renue formula and supporting your body in overwhelm. And if you haven't figured out, I'm kind of passionate about empowering people through education so that they can take charge of their health. It gives me great joy and excitement when I watch people start to unlock the pieces and figure out what's going on so that they can call me or message me and say, oh, this is what was happening, and I remembered what you taught me, and I tried this, and because this was the decision I made off of it, and it worked. That makes my day because it means that you guys are being able to start to navigate your health with this education that is being provided. So we're going to jump into this, and we're going to start off with hearing a little bit of a story from a friend of ours, Samantha Bradley, and what she had to say about Renue and the benefits they've seen in their family.
Hi everyone, good evening. Valerie asked me to speak just a little bit about my son. He is 18 now, but I believe he was probably about 10 or so when he was on methylphenidate for ADHD. We were hating the side effects, the not sleeping at night, the staying up late, setting alarm to get up and watch My Name is Earl at 2 o'clock in the morning. And so the Renue came into our lives. We started giving him the Renue, and at Christmas time, we pulled him off of the methylphenidate and just started him doing the Renue only. He went back to school in January. Teachers didn't even notice any difference. They actually thought he was doing a little bit better. And he never went back on medication again, which was great because no more side effects, no more sleeping or not sleeping at night and then wanting to sleep during the day, and no more bouncing off the walls during class. So yeah, he'll never be back on medication no matter what. I have some Renue. He does not drink it like he should, but he graduated this year and he was able to pass all of his classes and do good without being medicated, which is amazing. And on another little side note, we have a very hyper little Chiweenie, and she's not as bad now, but when she was really, still really young, she was really, really bad. And I would put a little bit of Renue and some yogurt, and thank the Lord, that dog would not be up all night long running all over the house like she did before. So not only did it work for my son, but it worked for our little tiny dog. So hope this helps. Thank you.
So I thought this was great because it showed two different aspects of the many, many facets and benefits that we've seen Renue provide for so many people. So in this place, we saw with her older son how it helped him to be able to calm his brain and being able to focus. But at the same time, with a hyperactive little dog, it was able to calm the dog down so it wasn't running around yipping. So two different ways that it worked with the body in overwhelm. So one of the plants that I am really fascinated with that is in the Renue, the common name is marl root. And when I was in doing some research, and these are all benefits that are actually documented by research studies, it's absolutely phenomenal. And it's so neat because look at these different things. Talking about reducing fatigue, Renue is one of the things I like to use after a woman has had a baby because it does help her to reboot or restore herself. And in fact, if I remember correctly, the marl root got its name because the marl deer would go out and eat it, dig it up and eat it after they would give birth, which is one of the components or aspects that caused me to think about using it with our women after they gave birth. And it has been absolutely great for helping them to get back up and running. So we see things here with helping endurance, strength and recovery, protecting the brain. That's very important with the overwhelm that stress can cause, talking on your cell phones, your different EMFs that are all around and out in the system. We see it working with anxiety and stress. It can help with libido. It's got some great antioxidant properties, even documented research showing how it helps to fight abnormal cell growth. We've seen studies with talking about its antimicrobial properties, supporting the immune, vascular, and biliary system. and also helping to maintain normal blood sugar levels, and even saw some instances in the research where it was saying it would help challenge insulin resistance. So Renue is so much bigger than just helping to calm the system. In fact, it's absolutely beautiful. Now, I have heard some people say, because we've talked about it when using it for like adrenal fatigue. I've had past adrenal fatigue issues, and we'll talk about that in a little while. And some people, when they would take it, they would say that it kind of amped them up a little bit initially. Well, when you are so worn out with the adrenals, and when you're getting such a good formula coming in and supporting it, and I really think this marl root plays a huge role in this, the adrenals kind of like start to kick in and start to function. But we'll touch more on that later. But I wanted to bring that in about all the properties just from one element that is in the Renue. So at this point, I would like to ask Ashley Brandon to, to share her soul story, Soul Speaks. So Ashley, if you would unmute yourself, we would love to hear your story about Renue.
Wonderful. Hey, Val, thanks for inviting me. I feel like you were just talking about me with adrenal fatigue. So when I first started Renue, I loved it before bedtime, and I still do. It's just like a really good decision before bed, and it feels comforting, and I sleep really well and go into a deep sleep. But I love the power of these adaptogens because I started drinking it in the morning a few years ago on ice and just cold water. And I felt amazing, right? Because I was experiencing that adrenal fatigue. So I love it at nighttime, and I do love it in the morning. I can tell that it has really helped to nourish my adrenals, and just absolutely love Renue and the benefits that I've experienced.
Thank you so much, my dear. And I love how you've adapted it based on what's going on. And that to me is so important, because we have to be careful not to get locked in that it should be used only one way. Because when we truly listen to our body and what's showing up, and we understand the principles that the product was formulated with the category, which I'm going to have Greg talk a little bit about here later, you can move it around in your daily schedule to where it fits best at that time in your life. So thank you so much for sharing that, my dear.
Welcome.
So with what Ashley said, there's a couple different ways that I've come in and used the Renue, and it had to do with partnering it up a little bit differently with some of the drinks. Here on the left-hand side, you're going to see partnered up with the Cinnamate. And I know that there's been great stories about using that for focus when you've got kids working with the ADHD aspect along with the ADD. And so what I think is happening is you also have the benefits of the blood sugar being balanced and supported even further with the Cinnamate, along with the calming properties of the Renue. Now, just recently, at the beginning of the month, we traveled for our second oldest daughter's wedding, and one of our grandsons, who just turned 12, was with us. And I was trying out different formulas, because he's with grandma and he's used to all this stuff, and I get to test and see how things are working. And he wasn't really wanting certain formulas that I was mixing up. But on the day that I mixed the Renue and Cinnamate together, he gulped it down. He could not get it fast enough. And we just watched as it leveled him off and kept him focused. So I told him, and just like a laid back, calm, but his attention span was even better. We could have more in-depth conversation. So I told his mom about that, our daughter, and she has seen the same thing, is now keeping him on that every single day, and said, especially with him having a new younger sister in the house who's only 6 months old at this point, and he has a 2-year-old brother, it just has worked beautifully for them, and they homeschool him. Now, on the other hand, we have combined Renue with Vital. We call it Revital. And I started doing that initially for myself and multiple other people who had past concerns with adrenal fatigue, because when we couldn't initially start out taking the Renue at night because it did give this energy. But what I found out was if we did it during the day, along with the Vital, it really zeroed in the benefits. And I really felt that very good foundation and strengthening being put towards our adrenals. And literally with all this stuff I went through with Troy, with him being sick this year, and with all the way the world has changed this year, I've had, no adrenal issues, none of this being knocked out. It took me a year to recover 30 years ago when I had this concern. You would think with everything that's gone on this year that it would easily take me that long as well. No, in this case, it only took me about 2 weeks, and I never hit rock bottom like I did before. And I know that it's specifically tied to all the soul products that I'm utilizing and the adaptogens that are in them. So very exciting to me. So again, listen to your body and then pair up and find those puzzle pieces and how they best fit for you. So now we're going to listen to Tammy Peterson, and she has a little bit of her soul story to share. So Tammy, if you can unmute yourself, we would love to hear what you have to say.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Because I'm using my...
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So Renue, just like what Ashley said, for me, when I use 3 Vertizymes at night, 1 Renue, I sleep. Even my Fitbit will say I had good sleep. So I've loved it that way. Now, back in the beginning, that's the only way I drank it. And I was afraid if I would drink it during the day, I would get exhausted. But I was going to do my very first by myself without Michelle, my leader, soul happy hour. And I was a wreck. I'm like, can I pray about this? I feel like I need to calm down. So what I did was I took because I needed energy too. I didn't want to be exhausted. I took the 3 drinks that I always take, Cinemate, Excel, and Vital, and I thought, let me just add the Renue and see if it takes the edge off. And I am telling you, it was amazing. I was able to think clear. It just kind of brought my nerves down. And so from that point, I realized it takes a certain angst away that I had always struggled with. The kids would get home from school and I'd just be like, ugh. Or I'd be doing hair. That's what I do. I'd be doing hair all day, and my anxiety would be kind of here. That Renue with the other 3 drinks, just all 4 together, just does something to my anxiety level. It just evens me out. So now I take it all sorts of ways. I love it with Vital in it. I just love it. To me, it was the last drink I started using, but it is a lifesaver for me now.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
You're welcome.
And again, yet another way that we're seeing this be utilized as personalized. And that also reminded me, I've neglected to mention, it was several weeks ago. I think it was, right around after the wedding, when I was doing my Zoom webinar, I mixed up a little bit of the Renue with the Cinemate while I was doing this, and I never do Cinemate, hadn't ever done it in the evening, and I only did half the cup, gave the other half to Troy, and we slept so well. So we've been testing this, and every night, about half an hour before we go to bed, I mix up 8 ounces, with hot water, with 1 Renue and 1 Cinemate, and we split the cup, and we both have been sleeping well. So I'm suspecting that it also has something to do with having your blood sugar balanced while you sleep, because lots of times people want to roam and eat a little before they eat or go to bed, and this is helping to prevent those blood sugar spikes. I know that Troy definitely has been pre-diabetic, and there's diabetes in my family. So yet another benefit, again, listening to your body and adapting for what works for you. So now it's time to hear a little bit from Greg regarding the concept behind the 4 categories: the balance, lift, clarify, and calm. So Greg, I'm going to turn it over to you for a moment.
Thanks, Val, and thanks everybody for sharing. I've been taking mental notes too, and it will hopefully come in useful. It's amazing how those things come to mind. Your stories come to mind when I get a chance to talk with someone else and just feel like, oh, they probably need to hear this. So thanks for giving me more education to pass on. Everything that we pass on, someone gave us, right, Val?
Absolutely.
So I was thinking about, Valerie asked me to talk a little bit about the concept of the 4 categories. And it's a lot to think about for me, to be honest, because because the core concept was something, honestly, it was something a little bit of a, I mean, forgive me for saying it this way, a little bit like a stroke of light after a lot of years, 20 years of working with lots of good products and lots of ways to work naturally with the body. Part of it came as a result of wanting to streamline the way we help ourselves and the way we can help others in some way. And it wouldn't have even been possible, streamlining it and simplifying a little bit, it would not have been possible had we not first learned about adaptogens. So, I mean, I guess as I think back to the development of the 4 categories, what came first was that aha moment with adaptogens, and really what Valerie teaches in terms of the tree, looking at our health like a tree, what deals with the roots, you know, and then the core trunk, as it were, you know, and then branches kind of go out from there, knowing that adaptogens are finally seeing how effectively and amazingly they work in the roots. They have their characteristics, and they have their what maybe peculiarities, their strengths, their emphasis is a good way, but they all are so balancing. They work in the roots, but we combine them with herbs that work out there on the branches as well. And that's where the 4 categories came in. As we looked at streamlining and wanting to give more direction so that we could learn how to listen to our body. I love the way Valerie teaches that all the time, because that never stops for any of us. It's the same for me. I keep learning new things. And just tonight, y'all gave me an idea of something I'm going to do different tonight, just to show you how it works for me and to do with Renue. So not that I haven't done it before, but I haven't done it what you said for a while. And it just felt right. Like that was something I was needing right now. So thank you for that. Well, that's really where the categories come from. Taking and applying these wonderful adaptogens, which are in all of them, but in different combinations with different emphasis. And then thinking about what can we add that will further balance and target nutrition so that we can help ourselves more easily and help others more easily. And what I mean by easily is in a way that people can feel something really early on, sometimes immediately, usually quite soon, but always in some time, not a lot of time. I say sometime because it might be that day or some hours or, you know, within a couple of days, but not weeks, like it so often has to be with, I think with a lot of the approach that I was brought up with, you know, which also changed my life. But we hoped to show and give people something a little sooner, hoping that it would accelerate the process of education. And kind of like who shared at the very start, Valerie, I loved her story at the very start.
Oh, Samantha.
Samantha said it with, you know, her son. I hope and believe that he always has that now. It's always with him. He knows what it can do for him. And that's what we hope with, in terms of having the categories, to give tools that are specific enough that a person can go to something that they know will balance them, bring them right back where they needed to. And to do that, because of our background together, dealing with certain herbs that clarify and cleanse and detox and reestablish those energies, you know, the meridians, there are levels to that, right? The internal pathways and processes of digestion and intestinal work, that whole natural detoxing every day, to the energetics that go with it. And then looking at just the general levels today in our society that we believe almost everybody runs on an eighth of a tank of gasoline. We just don't have the energy needed to balance us, to provide both mental, emotional focus. That's a strong belief I have because of diet and stress and just lifestyle. Now, that gave birth to the lift category, okay? I kind of mentioned the cleansing and the energetics and the yellow clarify category. Calm was about giving ourselves a chance to rebuild. It was all about that. Yeah, it has lots of other things that are part of it, but it was all about, Renue was all about that. And Vital was about really the core framework of how we process whether we're overly acidic or not. Do we have enough minerals so that energy flows? And just all those adaptogens, all 6 of them, in vital to do what they do, working at the roots so that we can now make a change. So I know that's a little bouncing around, but the 4 categories came about because of adaptogens and then teaming them up with things to give us some focuses that I think I could grasp, and hopefully everyone can grasp with a little bit of help from you all, and learn how to work with their health, learn how to put the education so we can give Val the call. Val, I did what, you talked about this, we heard this. Hey, I guess what I tried it, and this is how I tried it. I did this little twist on what I learned from you, and here's what it did for me. And that's like, I know that's her favorite call because it's not just assimilating it, but it's also applying it to ourselves personally.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you, Greg, for sharing that. And I also think of it sometimes like using the categories like a sight when you're sighting in a rifle to help zero in your target for what you're wanting to do with your health.
I like that analogy. Yeah. Lifting or calming, or what am I going to do here? What do I need? Yeah.
Right. Okay. Let's see. There we go. Okay. So because I was talking about how in the past I had dealt with adrenal fatigue, and at that point in my life, this book was so eye-opening for me. And so I realized a lot of the principles that they do highlight really is something I've had people just literally this statement. I'd say you might want to consider drinking Renue if you have difficulty getting up in the morning. Because what does that mean? It means you're not waking up rested. If you continue to feel tired without, even after adequate sleep. So the same thing, not only is it hard to get up, in fact, maybe you're one of those people that keeps hitting snooze, but even after you get out of bed, that you're just not functioning that well. You are having cravings for salt or salty food. This is a big indicator that you might need to come in and support the adrenals. By the way, another way you can tell is by looking in the mirror at your eyes and the pupils. If they're pulsating, then you probably would want to consider doing some stuff to support the adrenals. And in this case, the Renue is one of the things it absolutely might go to. You can constantly have no energy. It takes more and more effort just to get through the day. Again, we talked about this with the mall route. Have a decreased sex drive. So you can see that that's probably another reason why the Renue works so well. You have a decreased ability to handle stress. You might be thinking, wow, before this wouldn't have gotten to me. But now if one more child says the word mom, or one more employee asks me this, in the past it wouldn't have bothered you. You might need to consider stopping and taking a drink of some Renue. If it takes you longer than average to recover from illness, trauma, or injury, I have found in the past that when our adrenals are overtaxed, that it does take more effort to bounce back. And think about it, adrenaline, which of course adrenals can produce, helps you to deal with fight or flight, to save yourself. Well, it's also talking about bouncing back from the average everyday things. Well, when you're consistently dealing with those, they can wear you out. Think of it like a constant water drip on your head. Initially, it's not a big deal, but after a while, it can drive you crazy. And so it becomes a big stressor, therefore making it harder to bounce back from other things. Here's another indicator a lot of people don't know. If you become lightheaded when you stand up quickly, mild depression, less enjoyment with life, just really, something that in the past would have made you happy, but now, you just could care less about it. Increased PMS symptoms, to where maybe, in fact, I think the picture in the book, it's outstanding. The lady is she's got like Medusa's head with all the little snakes coming off, just ready to strike. If you feel like you can't say anything around that person, then maybe that would be a good time to consider some Renue. If you notice the above symptoms, all these that we just talked about, are worse if you miss a meal. Your thoughts are less focused, more fuzzy. I know for me, whenever I was dealing with the adrenal fatigue in the years past, literally, I could not make a congruent sentence, something that wouldn't make sense. again, memory less accurate, decreased tolerance, and that means about pretty much anything. I do find it a lot with sound as well, though, too. And you don't really wake up till 10 in the morning. You have an afternoon low between 3 and 4, but then you feel better after the evening meal. So what do these people typically do? They still, all of a sudden, it's like they get their second wind. They're like, oh my gosh, I have to accomplish something. So they'll stay up later than they should. Consequently, we just keep the cycle going on and going on. Decreased productivity, not getting or accomplishing near the amount of work that you used to, and it's taking you longer to get done what you ordinarily might have been able to get done in an hour. So at this point, we're going to ask Laura to unmute herself, and she's going to share with us her experience with Renue and how she combined it with some other things to work with some health challenge for herself. So Laura, take it away. Make sure you unmute. There you go. Yeah, let's unmute you.
Okay.
Well, you're muted again. There you go.
Okay. If you hear a little dog in the background chewing on a bone, that's what that is. Sorry, I'm here by myself. So thanks for asking me to talk. I actually first started seeing Valerie when I was trying to recover from adrenal fatigue. And I had the typical couldn't get out of bed in the morning. Kind of felt a little better by lunch, but by 2 o'clock, I was completely ready for a nap, to the point where I couldn't keep my eyes open. I needed a nap. And then after supper, I felt great. And then I was staying up way too late because then I had my second wind. And then I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't sleeping at all. And for me, the Renue did work for me in the evening to help me sleep. But it also helped me times during the day where not only did I need to kind of be calm because of all that was going on, I would add a cinnamate with that because that would calm me down, plus give me the focus that I needed. I would also take the Renue with me. About a year ago, I started seeing a counselor, and I took the Renue with me before I went into session, and that helped me as well, kind of keeping the calm. But I also, with my adrenal fatigue, have digestive issues and I have headaches. And when I have an upset stomach and I take the Renue, it totally calms that down. And when I have a headache, it's always 3 PI and a Renue. And that pretty much seems to kind of take care of it. And, you know, some days I have to do that a couple times. When it rains, I always have a headache. So that kind of lasts a little longer. But for the most part, that kind of works for me.
Oh, I love that tip with the headache. That's fantastic. I wasn't aware of that. I have to remember that. What a great combination. So calming how the body is being overwhelmed in its response to pain, but you're also coming in targeting the inflammation with the PI.
Yes, yes.
Great job. Excellent. Wow. Thank you for sharing, Laura. So I ran across this picture when I was putting this together, and I really like this because so often we are taught as a society to get the quick fix. And sometimes it makes it look great in all, like this little carrot on the right, that's all great and looks fantastic at the top, but what's underneath? Has it really fixed? No. And this is where a pun is intended, the root of the issue. Whereas on the left, maybe the plant isn't as big, but we're getting in and targeting and feeding that root so it becomes great and strong. And in the long run, we know which one will win out, which one will go the distance. So it's often that I tell people and have to remind them that, yes, often people feel results fairly quickly, but we're at more than just getting those results for that temporarily feel good. We really want to get in and work at the crux of the concern so that we build that health foundation so that we can truly change our health for the better in the long run. So that's why when people ask me, well, where do I start? I tell them, I start with the Bella Health Package. And in this case, you can add the Renue with it if these are symptoms you can relate to. So just like Greg was saying, the vital is getting in and is targeting that foundation, we're targeting pH, we're targeting with the minerals getting in, which are going to work as help as a catalyst or for the catalytic ability of the enzymes, because minerals will fire that up. We're working on the energies flowing. We got the cinnamate, so we're working with blood sugar. We're working with digestion. We're working with the hepatic, so the liver and the pancreas. So many of these things are so important with getting the nutrition throughout the body. We're also looking here at the Verdezymes, which are going to help us break down the food, because so often our food can become our enemy if we cannot break it down. So it doesn't really matter sometimes what we eat. If we can't break it down to where it's in a user-friendly form, we can't deliver it to the system to get the results. And then the probiotic, because good gut bacteria is so important for brain health, for the gut health, for moving the trash out of the system. And up here we have that reference with the tree. Again, we want that foundation strong. When you see a beautiful root system like that, you know that when it's fed properly, and even if we have that big, strong, high wind coming through the storms, that tree is going to stay strong and be able to go the distance. So as another rule of thumb, people come to me and they say, I've got this concern. I will ask them, well, when did this show up? If it just showed up in the last couple months, then let's jump in, let's see what's going on. And I tell them, you know what, let's work on this for 3 months and change our foundation for moving forward. But if they've had the issue for a couple years, let's say they've had it for 3 years, the general rule of thumb is taking your protocol for 3 months plus 1 month for every year you've had the issue. So if they've had the issue for 3 years, then we would be looking at 6 months. And that's not 6 months to start feeling a difference, but it's 6 months to truly get in and begin to change what is going on. Because we don't want to stop. And too often we see people stop when they just start to feel better, and then they go, oh, it didn't really fix it, it came back. Well, that's because you didn't give time for the body to go in and heal itself. It's so amazing. The body replaces every cell, every piece of itself, every 7 years. So do you realize how we are empowering the body to heal when we give it this type of nutrition and we follow this type of a plan and implementing it? So with that idea in mind, and giving the body the time to move forward, when we're having people in this overwhelm, I just thought that this was a great quote. To get through the hardest journey, we need to take only one step at a time, but we must keep on stepping. So notice, if you just take 1 or 2 of those steps, you haven't made it to the top. But it is possible to get to the top if we just do it 1 step at a time. So get that program going. Trust the body's healing process. Know that you're feeling better, but go the distance. Give it the ability to truly get in and change the blueprint of your life. So next week, we'll be talking about ProBioIQ and supporting the body's frontline defense. And every Monday at 6:30, I invite you to join us as we get empowered with education. So with that, I wanted to take a moment and see if anybody had any little bit of tidbits or thoughts that they wanted to add to this. Hey, go for it, Tammy Von Traeger. You're unmuted. Go.
So it's so funny because I knew that we were talking about Renue tonight, but kind of had just, had a brain moment and forgot about it. And I had dinner and then had some pie from the weekend, and I had a terrible headache. And so I made up a Renue. So that's what I've been drinking, and it's helping. It's going away. So
wonderful way to play it out for us. And that reminds me, in the few times that maybe my stomach felt upset, and Renue has helped to settle my stomach too. So excellent. I would love to hear from anyone else and how they've used it or added thoughts that they had.
Val,
Yes.
this is Ashley. I apologize if it's a little loud.
You're fine.
I just, like, my whole health journey was flashing before my eyes while we were talking tonight. And I just want to thank Greg for putting together such a simplified program. And it's just like every day I'm learning something new as I'm taking these herbs, and just the flexibility of them makes it super easy to just set up for personal health success. So thank you both for tonight.
Absolutely. Greg?
Valerie, thanks, Ashley. And Valerie made me think of when she was teaching about the marl root. We have to thank, we don't talk about them a lot, but we've had long, well, I guess 20, almost 30-year relationships with some of these suppliers of herbs. Blake is really the one who works directly with them. But the one that Valerie featured tonight, it wasn't readily available when Soul started. And when Renue, it's interesting to me. I don't know that, I'm not a real big believer in coincidences, but when Soul was ready to add that to the line, suddenly we've got a reliable and a good source of marl root from one of our most respected suppliers. And I just think, I'm sure there are other adaptogens out there that are very key. We use the ones we know of, and coming up shortly this fall, we'll be adding a couple of new ones, new adaptogens that we don't yet have. I've been working a little bit with Valerie on that. But I'm just grateful that we're at a time where not only we can get them, because that one grows in Siberia, but that they've improved the ways they process them, the way they extract them. And I think we get more out of them, because it's not easy to take a plant and put it in a form that will preserve, right? Try to get everything you can and keep it in a powder that we can preserve. And it has really a many-year life where it has almost all of its good stuff. So Renue's one of them. It's a huge blessing, because a few things were not, the other one is yuzu. We had a lot of questions bringing it into the country, because they use the essential oil, but not the fruit. So anyway, Renue's got a couple of very unique and I think important healers in them. Grateful for it.
Go ahead, Rachel.
So I have always loved Renue since I was introduced to it, but I want to thank you for this, because now I have a renewed appreciation for it, because I do have a history of adrenal fatigue from back when I was in my 20s. And so I feel like I'm still, recovering from it. I feel immensely better than I did before I started with Soul, but I feel like I'm still, every day working on it. And so I didn't think Renue was as important for that as what it is. So thank you for sharing.
Oh, excellent. You're welcome. And the neat thing is, with consistency, when it comes to using the adaptogens, they become more powerful, and we see more and more impressive results. That long-term use really is the key for me when I look at an adaptogen.
Well, I think we need to really listen to what Rachel said, because she shared from the heart, and those words they felt like they came from heaven to me. And just looking at you, Rachel, I like your background.
You like my background? I need a Soul background, really.
That's a perfect one. I like the one you have.
I have felt for, right when we got Renue, I always felt, and I know this sounds like another play on words, but I really felt like it was a sleeper combination, because as we have continued to use it, we have found more and more benefits as it has risen in value. So kind of like what Rachel was saying, we have it more and more underscored why it is such an important player in the family. So, because initially, I remember telling a couple people, I'm like, I think we've barely scratched the surface of what we're going to see that this formula does.
Val?
Yes.
Should I ask my question I asked you earlier, since we've got Greg here?
You could absolutely. I don't remember what your question was, but ask.
Well, it was about that when we were at Snowbird, I got the worst case of altitude sickness. I thought I was going to die, but I had been taking Vital, And I came down so sick one morning, and somebody, I don't know who it was, said, you need to use Renue for that. And I was like, Renue, that doesn't, okay, I'll do it. And it helped so much, but I don't know the rest of the conversation or why it helped. And I don't know if it was maybe the combination of the Vital and Renue together, but Greg, did I dream that?
No, but thanks, because you gave me an idea too, because I've used Vital will work really well for me in altitude, but Renue has several things in it that are very high altitude plants, and I one of them, the Jaugalon in Sol Vital, the Jaugalon adaptogen, it's been studied for altitude, which we didn't know. I'll just be honest with you when we formulated, but Dr. Allison shared some of those studies with us later. And I know marl is very high altitude, marl root. So I'd have to look. I don't know which one, but I'm a big believer in, that's why we have a variety of adaptogens. What does Renue have? 4, Valerie? I'm trying to remember. I think it might have 4 adaptogens in it. So you're going to get several that should help in that, Tammy.
So Tammy, what Greg's also talking about is similar or part of what we call the doctrine of signature. So where the plant grows also tells us the type of climates and conditions that you will be able to realize benefits from. So with it growing and thriving in higher altitude means issues that come with being in higher altitude will often respond to it as well.
Wow, that's amazing. And you know what? Now that Greg said that, it may have been Dr. Allison that told me to use it.
It could be. Awesome. Yeah. She told me.
Wow, everybody. These conversations after the class are just important to me as in what I get to learn from you guys in the sharing, because it allows, like Greg was saying, it allows all of us to be able to take it, pay it forward, and help someone else. So as always, I want you to be thinking overnight, and when I post the recording tomorrow, maybe you will have thought of someone that could benefit from this information that you could share the recording with, so that we can help make a difference and help someone else start to feel as good as we are with life. So thank you, everyone. I absolutely love having you participate in all this, and I look forward to seeing everybody next week.
Thanks, Valerie. You're amazing. And I'm stealing.
Thank you.
I'm stealing Laura Warwick. I wrote it down. I'm going to pass it. I'm paying it forward, Laura.
Good deal. Good night, everybody.
Later.
Thank you. Bye.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.